At Rahul's Clubhouse, our facilitators, parents, and most importantly, our young volunteers. Thank you very much.
Facilitators of the clubhouse, parents, students, other specially invited guests, my friend from the media. I want to tell you that I'm very honored to be asked to give you all an address today. It's so difficult to speak after hearing all these good speeches by the previous speakers. And I'm hoping that I want to introduce some singing and dancing in my classes at the university because I see it has such a good impact here. And today I want to talk to you all about the importance of being a volunteer. Just now, Dr. Mahez talked about filling in those sheets for you all to get into a program at UWI. This volunteerism, it's about a deep desire to help others. You don't be a volunteer to get awards or to get any reward or to get any praise. You have a deep desire to help a fellow human being. You have a deep desire to help. It could be even volunteering to help stray animals, to take care of animals. So I want you all to remember that it's not simply ticking off a box. It's not simply adding something to your CV or your resume. It's something more than that. It will help you become a better citizen, a better member of the human family. Right now, we have so many murders in Trinidad and Tobago. And you know, one of the reasons is because we don't care about human life. We don't care about each other. And I hope this volunteer experience will make you more caring. It will instill some empathy in you. I want to commend the students who have signed up for this volunteer program. I'll tell you a little secret about my life. When I was a student, I never volunteered. I had other interests. Evening time, I want to go and kick ball. I want to go and play cricket. I want to go liming in the mall. Weekends, I want to go to the beach. Family get together. Some lime happening, some barbecue, I there. Some bazaar, I there. So I want to commend you all, right? I have learned so much. You all are a good reflection of what the next generation is. The next generation of citizens. Some of you all will end up going abroad to work and live. You might go to North America, Australia, Europe. And I want you all to take back some of the values that you all have learned here during this volunteer time. I want to commend the parents, as Dr. Mehe said, for taking the time to be with your children. You know why we have so much fighting in the schools? Because parents don't spend time with their children. We have broken homes. We have dysfunctional families. So I want to congratulate each parent for encouraging your son or daughter to be here today, encouraging your son or daughter to volunteer for this good project. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we never used the term autism. We call these children and these adults mad and crazy and retarded. Harsh terms. When I was younger, there was a movie called Rain Man. Some of you all might know that movie with Dustin Hoffman. If you have never seen it, I want you to go and see it. It's about an autistic man, and it was the beginning when the world was starting to understand autism in the 1980s and appreciate how serious this problem was. I want to also mention that after you finish this volunteer session, I want you all to go and do more volunteering. There are so many areas in society and so many people who need volunteers like you all. Volunteer for the elderly homes, go in the hospitals, go in the hospice. I have a few friends that told me that they are volunteering in the hospital with people who have stage 4 cancer. And that's a death. You cannot come back after stage 4. Around the world, you have people who volunteer with people who have Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Down syndrome. They have all these various causes. So I don't want you to say, well, I feel I have to spend my whole life at Rahul's Clubhouse. Let this be a training ground for you all to spread your wings and volunteer and help others. Right now, we have a problem with so many Venezuelan immigrants, migrants coming in here because of their political regime in Venezuela, and we see these Venezuelans needing our help. Volunteer and help them. Who knows what could happen to Trinidad in the future, and we might become a refugee too, right? And on that note, you see what is happening in the Middle East? What is happening in the Middle East right now? Very good, very good. I will remind Maya to give you a bracelet. It's not just that. Russia, Ukraine, throughout the world, they have these conflicts, and it is volunteers, the Red Cross who would go in there. People who would volunteer their life to go and help. It's not the army and the military helping, they are creating the conflict. The volunteers who are helping these displaced people, these hurt and injured people in the Middle East, in Russia and Ukraine. So I want you all to understand how important volunteering is, how important it is to develop yourself as a human being. About 20 years ago, 24 years ago, I started this International Men's Day because I wanted to help many of the men who were stereotyped and stigmatized, many of the men who were involved in drug addictions, many of the men who were physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally abused. And it was a very difficult time. People was wondering, what was my agenda? What was I trying to get? I didn't want to get anything. I realized how important it was for the man to be strong and his responsibility in the home and the community and the workplace. So I want you all to also appreciate what you all are doing. You are helping strengthen the family bonds. You are helping to strengthen family bonds in Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to say something. This Rahul's Clubhouse, as you all would know, some of you all might know, it's just a temporary location. And I hope in the future that Rahul's Clubhouse will have a permanent home. I hope that the government will find it in their heart to allocate money to assist Rahul's Clubhouse to have a permanent home. Too often, many of the NGOs in Trinidad and Tobago have to beg for money. Sometimes the government reject them. Sometimes businessmen and businesswomen reject them. And these same businessmen and businesswomen, they will give millions of dollars to political parties. I hope that the government, I hope that the Ministry of Social Development, is that a relevant ministry? I hope that the Ministry of Social Development will have a subvention, will have an annual allocation for Rahul's Clubhouse. Many of the politicians don't know the good work you all are doing down here. I have a vision for this clubhouse. I want to see this clubhouse in Central, in North Trinidad. I want to see it in Tobago. I want to see it in every Caribbean island, because in all the Caribbean countries, like the rest of the world, they are autistic people. This is not something that happens just in South Trinidad. You all have a gift here. You all have something good going, and I want you all to expand on that. And I want you all to tell your friends. This is one of the biggest groups of volunteers I heard from Maya and Dr. Mahay. So I'm very proud that, I am part of this journey that you all are on. And I want to mention that I heard some of the speakers talking about Rahul's Clubhouse being a safe place. Rahul's Clubhouse being that place for love and protection. And that is what is missing in many schools. That is what is missing in many homes. That love and protection, that understanding. I think Carleen talked about patience. She mentioned it more than once. That is an important word, I don't have patience, Sometimes I'm very impatient and I like to get things done. Some people could spend 2 and 3 hours in traffic. I can't spend 10 minutes in traffic, I'm ready to complain. I'm ready to jump out of the car, I'm ready to turn back home. So patience, love, understanding, empathy, those are the cornerstones of this clubhouse. That is the motto of this clubhouse that gets it going. It's not money that is keeping the clubhouse going up. It is those virtues, those values that are so absent from citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Think about it. Patience, love, understanding. You cannot go in the grocery and buy those items, You could have the most amount of money in the world. You could be living in the best gated community. You could go to any university, but you cannot get those values of patience and understanding and love and empathy. That is something that your parents have to teach you. That is something that is instilled in you. That is a gift. You are blessed with that if you have patience. So a lot of times we judge people by where you live, the type of car you drive, the type of job you have, the type of salary that you have, and the amount of how big your bank account is. But the values that are absent in our society, that love and understanding, creating those safe zones, those places of patience, that zone of understanding, those are the values that we need in every community. So I want you all to take this volunteer experience and make it part of your life. I want to thank you all, and I know Maya have some questions based on my speech, so I hope that you all have been listening, and I want to again commend the parents and your students, parents and your children, for making this sacrifice. Because let me tell you all something, you see the sacrifice that you make for your children, they will also pass it on to their children. It's a generational thing, you know. So parents, your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, don't be surprised if they also have these values, and later on in the next few years, they will also want to volunteer for a worthy cause. Thank you.
Yes, that is correct. When International Men's Day is celebrated. Yeah. I noticed, I actually noticed, and I didn't have to Google this. I'm so proud of myself.
Just for the records, tell us your name.
Jerome Tiloxing from UW St. Augustine. I examined the issue of why we need to volunteer, the importance of volunteerism. I spoke about that volunteerism isn't just something to put on your CV or resume, it has to come from your heart. I talked about the cornerstones of this Rahul's Clubhouse being patience and love and understanding and providing a safe place. I said that, you know, that this safe place we need in the schools. That's why we have so much violence. You know, we don't have that love and understanding. And I said that the community, the home in particular, is so dysfunctional, and Rahul's Clubhouse is trying to ensure that, you know, there's a lot of healing and those bonds are strengthened, those family bonds. Certainly, I feel that an organization like Rahul's Clubhouse should have a regular or at least a visiting psychologist and psychiatrist, or child psychologist or child psychiatrist, and they should have a therapist, and the government should assist with paying the salary for these persons, because this clubhouse doesn't have regular income, you know, to assist them with all these expenses. I was very concerned, you know, to see this happening in the Middle East, especially in an area which is supposed to be holy and religious. And, you know, when I was speaking here at Rahul's Clubhouse, I thought about the children in the Middle East. Here we are in South Trinidad, you know, trying to keep a safe space, trying to help these beloved children. And in the Middle East, even in Ukraine, we have children who are displaced, who are without parents, they're orphans. We have children who are injured, especially like when the hospital was bombed. So I think there is a parallel, and we need to see what is happening from a global context. I think that I am glad that the government is taking some steps to have these Venezuelan children enrolled in our schools. I think that whilst I was here speaking at Rahul's Clubhouse, I thought about these Venezuelan children, both legal and illegal, you know, because education is something very critical for a child. You know, we don't want these children to become absorbed into gangs or negative social activities. I know that some institutions in South Trinidad, I believe there's a place in La Romaine that is doing good work. I know the UW St. Augustine will also be embarking on projects. So I think that just as Rahul's Clubhouse is creating a safe space, the government has to ensure that they create a safe space. Maybe they might have to set up a special schools for these autistic children, special schools for these Venezuelan children before they're integrated, because our teachers in our primary and secondary schools, they don't know Spanish. Many of them are not bilingual. So the government has to set aside some institutions, create a space for children with autism, children with Down syndrome, these illegal immigrants, these legal migrants, their children too. It is still in its early stages. It is not as public as yet, but I know that there is a pilot project being spearheaded. I believe it's coming from the Spanish department, and I know that the public will know about it soon, but the university students, it's only through the initiative of the government. The government has to direct them in this path and tell them, that it's important to have the university help the Venezuelan children because, right now we are having them here coming on a daily basis in Trinidad and they're without an education.